If nothing feels broken, that's exactly why this keeps happening. Because when things actually break, you fix them. When the deals fall apart loudly, you investigate. And when numbers crash, you pay attention. And when something clearly fails, you intervene. But this isn't that. This is quieter. Nothing snapped, nothing collapsed, and nothing forced a decision. And that's what makes it dangerous. Here's what's important to understand. This doesn't happen because you're careless. It happens because you're capable. You can juggle the pressure. You can juggle the uncertainty. And you sure can compensate when things don't move cleanly. So instead of stopping the system to fix what's off, you absorb it. You make it work. You follow up a little harder, and you say a little later. You remind yourself that this is just part of the business. And because you're still producing results, nothing ever feels broken enough to justify slowing down. That's how high performers normalize friction, not by ignoring it, by outperforming it. Now, this is the story you keep telling yourself. So pay attention to the language in your own head. You don't say, "This is broken." You say things like, "I'll clean this up once this deal closes." Or, "Next week will be smoother." Or, "I just need to get through this push." You tell yourself it's temporary, and you tell yourself it's situational. And technically, you're not wrong, but you're also not addressing it. You're postponing the moment where you actually decide whether this is acceptable or not. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Nothing forces a decision when partial success is still happening. When money still comes in, some deals still close, and your calendar still looks full. So your brain never sounds the alarm. It just recalibrates the expectation. Unpredictability becomes your new normal. Uneven weeks become part of the game. Instability becomes something you manage emotionally instead of structurally. It's not failure, that's adaptation. And adaptation is dangerous when it delays correction. The thing is, most people think that cost shows up as lost deals, when in reality it doesn't. The real cost is subtler. You're training yourself to live with unpredictability. You're teaching your nervous system that uncertainty is fine as long as you still keep moving. And over time, that changes how you make decisions. You stop asking, "How do I stabilize this?" You start asking, "How do I survive another cycle?" That's the shift. It's not dramatic, and it's not obvious. But once it happens, everything downstream feels heavier. Here's when a pattern stops being bad luck. When one uneven week is just noise. But when the same instability keeps showing up in slightly different forms, that's not timing, and that's not market conditioning. It's not effort. That's a pattern you learn to tolerate. Here's the part most people don't like hearing. If you don't interrupt a pattern, you're not neutral. You're choosing it. Here's the thing. A lot of agents assume clarity will come later, after the next closing, after the next campaign, or after the next busy stretch. Clarity doesn't arrive on its own, because nothing in your current setup is designed to force it. Your system still works enough, your effort still fills the gaps, and your results still justify the behavior. So the question never gets asked, not because you're avoiding it, but because nothing makes it unavoidable. This is where things quietly split. Some people eventually decide, "I'm done managing around this." Others keep adapting. They don't fail, they don't quit, they just stall. And year after year, that same instability is with better explanations. And the longer that goes on, the harder it becomes to see where the real problem actually lives. Here's the real mayor. If your business only works when you're constantly compensating, then the system isn't doing its job. You are. And that's fine until it isn't. Effort stops being leverage and starts being a liability. It's not because you're doing the wrong things, but because the most sensitive parts of your process are still relying on you to be perfect. If this felt familiar, it's because you're already managing around something you haven't named yet. I'll show you the specific bottleneck, and what you do with it is up to you.